Today is Monday, October 7th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. Today's guests are Mark Soderberg, ADMIS Senior Ag Analyst, Alan Bush, ADMIS Senior Financial Economist, and Mark Bowman, ADMIS Senior Global Market Analyst. Starting with the grain markets this morning, Mark. We've got some big USDA production and WASDE reports this Friday. What are your expectations?
I look for data to be mixed this Friday. I've got U.S. corn production at 15.145 billion bushels with an average yield of 183.1 bushels an acre. This is down 41 million bushels from the USDA forecast in September. Still the second highest crop ever produced, and my yield forecast is down 0.5 bushels an acre as well. However, that's still a record yield. So with the slightly lower production combined with the lower carry-in stocks, this is from the data we got last Monday from the USDA, carry-out stocks are old crop at 1.76 billion bushels. We've got 24-25 carry-out now at 1.940 billion bushels. That's up 180 from a year ago. However, it's down 117 million bushels from what the USDA was forecasting in September. On beans, I've got production at 4.610 billion. That's up 26 million bushels from the USDA estimate in September. My yield's at 53.5, a record, just slightly above the record USDA forecast at 53.2. So with the higher production, I've got carryout stocks at 560. That's up only 10 million from the USDA estimate in September. This due to the lower stocks figures and slight on old crop and slightly higher usage. In wheat, I've got we've got all the production estimates last week, plugging those into the balance sheet now. I've got ending stocks slipping to 797 million bushels, down from 828 was the USDA forecast last month. I've got exports up 25 million bushels due to declining production estimates elsewhere around the world. But despite the stocks being down just under 800 million bushels, down from last month's estimate from the USDA, it's still a 4-year high.
And Mark, the weather in South America has been less than ideal, really. Will we start to see some improvements there?
Well, if we don't, I think this recent recovery we've seen across particularly beans and corn, I think is just a beginning. Conditions across the central part of the country and their main growing areas just remain historically dry, with some of the Amazon River tributaries now at 120-year lows. So the annual transition from their dry season to the wet season has been slower than normal. Bean plantings are only 4% right now as of late last week. That's about half where they're normally at for this time of year, but it's still quite early. Bean plantings, if these delays persist into the end of the month, however, that will start to take its toll on production for both corn and soybeans. About 70 to 75% of Brazil's corn crop is a second crop that is planted after the soybean harvest. So if bean plantings are delayed, their harvest is delayed, therefore so is the second corn crop. So if rains, they're forecast to begin really by the end of this week. Very critical to farmers getting out there, moving forward with planting operations, knowing that there will be some subsoil in the ground for the crop to start drawing on.
I will continue to watch that weather in South America. Mark Bowman, what's in store for natural gas this week?
Well, November natural gas had a key reversal lower on Friday, and that does suggest a near-term top is in. The weekly Baker Hughes rig count on Friday did show U.S. natural gas rigs in operation increasing by 3 rigs last week to 102, and that's the highest they've been since July 19th. It was also the second straight week with an increase. Now, rigs are still down considerably from a year ago, 118 a year ago, and an average, 5-year average at this time of 118.6. But this turnaround does indicate drillers are turning a bit more positive about demand. Storage injections during the last 3 months were at record lows for this time of year, going back to at least 1997. And this has helped narrow the surplus to a year ago and the 5-year average levels. But with two straight increases in rig counts, traders may be thinking this trend is coming to an end. We have this tropical storm Milton. It's expected to hit Florida this week as a hurricane, but it looks like it's going to avoid, not threaten any LNG loading facilities. And the forecasts for the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day still show above normal temperatures across most of the country, which could support some late season cooling demand. But it also lowers heating demand in the northern parts of this country. And we're in this shoulder season now, so it doesn't look like it would, it could actually be pressure demand overall. Natural gas, November natural gas now is in kind of a retracement mode off its rally off the 2.5-year lows. And we're coming in on the 50% of that today, which comes in around 272.90. And then there's another retracement of 266.10. Overall, the long-term trend still looks positive for natural gas. We have this trend of increasing LNG exporting facilities, which will help keep offtake of U.S. natural gas at a good pace and of supply. And we have narrowed the surplus to year ago and 5-year average levels considerably. And last I looked, it seemed like we could go into deficit at some point early next year.
And Mark, how about a quick update on the coffee market?
So we have seen a slight improvement in the Brazilian weather forecast this week, but I got to emphasize slight. As Mark pointed out, their rainy season has been slow to develop at all. And initially, the coffee crop for 2025 needs some rains to induce flowering, and they need kind of a consistent rains after that for cherry development and eventually for bean development. But this rainy season has yet to develop, and we're dealing with a long period of drought that has stressed trees. There's some ideas that it could be mid-October that will be the make or break point. Crop could be on the brink of disaster. In 1985, that point came in mid-October. It's really hard to predict that. We did see some decent exports by Brazil in September, which were up 36% more than last year. That and this rain in the forecast is probably what's pressuring the coffee market. But these concerns are still considerable over their upcoming crop.
Mr. Bush, how's the greenback doing, and what is the fundamental and technical outlook for the U.S. dollar index?
Okay, well, they both have improved. It was just last Tuesday that the U.S. dollar index broke out above a downtrend line that started in July. And then on Friday, the dollar index advanced to its highest level in several months. So even though the dollar index was a little lower today, I would not be surprised to see a move back to higher on the day. And it is widely expected that the Federal Open Market Committee will reduce its key rate again in November. However, the Fed may be less aggressively lowering its key interest rate. And right now, there's an 89% chance that the Fed will lower the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points at its November 7th meeting. However, there's an 11% chance that the Fed will keep rates unchanged at 4 3/4 to 5%. If you remember, it was only a few weeks ago that there was a better than 50-50 chance that the Fed could cut again by 50 basis points. So all of that is really not there now. So the Fed will be slower to move to accommodation, and this is supportive to the dollar index. So interest rate differentials are supportive, and I think we can see the dollar index continuing to advance against all of the major foreign currencies.
And Alan, what are traders looking at this week as far as reports go?
Okay, well, we will have on Wednesday the Federal Open Market Committee minutes from the recent meeting. That would be the September 18th policy meeting. And we'll have inflation numbers Thursday, the September Consumer Price Index guessed at up 0.1%. And Friday, the September Producer Price Index, and that is predicted to show a 0.2% increase. So a lot of inflation numbers this week, and those are often very market-moving reports.
Thank you all. Remember, the views and opinions expressed today on this video are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. If you'd like more information about our brokerage services, would like to speak to one of our experts about managing your risks, or would like to open a trading account, please visit www.admis.com.